you do personal training, you train your person, right? You get physically stronger. Brain training, it deals with the mental emotional side of the triangle. And we talk about in applied kinesiology, you have 3 parts of the triangle. You have the physical, structural, mental, emotional, and the electrical, chemical. So because it's so broad, because it's so poorly defined, because it's so nebulous, I say, well, we'll just call this stuff, the mental, emotional stuff, we'll call that brain training. Because it deals with all the mental stuff, so like how well you can do math, for example, is mental. How well you can do your taxes. Now, if you have an emotional resistance to it, you won't even look at it, right? Or if you're done working the math and you're like, oh man, that's really uncomfortable. So there's things in your life that you avoid because you have an emotional aversion to them, right? And a lot of times you get stinking thing and you get stuck thoughts. Not every adaptation in your life is a good one, right? There's a lot of times where you learn something that got you through a period of time that then becomes like a limitation later on. It becomes a handicap later on in life, right? So brain training literally is specific adaptation to implied demand. We create a situation in your mind, then your body adapts to that, your brain adapts to that, and that becomes your new way of thinking. It's literally updating the human operating system like a computer. Your body, it's like the body's a keyboard, like we push buttons and it does
physical manipulation and it's tied to the brain, or like you just chat with them?
No. It's anybody else want to?
Were we like the guinea pigs on the brain training that all-day workshop that we did?
No, that's a whole other series.
The series of it.
Yeah, that's one part. So here's the other thing. The breadth of stuff that I've studied, you know, what you've experienced is well, you got to experience a couple of different things, right?
Yeah.
So, but like the switched on selling class is what we did, and that's a 1-day, 8-hour class where we update your thoughts all about sales, and that's very, very like divested from any kind of emotional thing. It's an approach to a process. But your experience is probably radically different than what I've done for some of the other people here, right? Right. And each of you have got to see a whole bunch of different aspects of what I do. I think probably because you started this. Anyway, we'll talk about that in a minute. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So with that piece, the easiest analogy I can give you is the brain is a computer, right? The body is a keyboard. And there's different reflex points on the body, and then we have to run specific programs. Like if you start just banging on your keyboard, you're not going to get the information where you need to go. So you have to open a program, find the cursor, put the thing in the right place, figure out what the problem is. A lot of the guys that I work on that are computer programmers tell me I'm more like a computer programmer than I am like a doctor, because that's a lot of what it is. Especially when I kind of get into the thing where I just mumble to myself and I start touching stuff.
Animal, vegetable, mineral.
Sure, go ahead.
So what I've been learning with my work with Dr. Danny is that your body registers a perceived threat or a real threat, and it doesn't know the difference. So that's one of the things that we work on for me in particular, that my body doesn't understand the difference between an actual perceived threat, shock, and the real threat. So he's just changing my brain to not respond to the perceived threats my body thinks is a real threat. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if that's helpful.
Okay, so I've been on antidepressants for years.
Yeah.
Are you saying that you'd be able to help me?
Anybody want to?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. The anxiety and taking tranquilizers all the time, no more, because the anxiety, he does something with the anxiety. I mean, it's very emotional when you do it too, but it's amazing. I mean, have I not been anxious, like, horrible?
Yeah.
It's like you were
Frank-
trying for some other stuff.
Frank and Donna are sweet. Frank came to me one day, he's like, Doc, I gotta talk to you, man. He's like, you met my wife. How much are we talking? 2,000, 3,000? I mean, what are we talking? 6 years? I mean, what? What do we? I said, Frank.
Not long.
I got you. Don't worry about it. Right? And then he had a concern. He's like, well, what are we talking here as cost? I was like, so I don't know if you've seen the place. I could use a little freshening up. And I know that you're a guy with a particular set of skills that can make this happen. This is the Frank.
like
Yes.
Ethan knows it. Ethan knows it.
Yeah, the shelves and the.
Congratulations. Yes.
Anyway, so she asked about antidepressants. You were going to say something?
So I am Jen, and it's super strange to me to be with all of you, but I'm an alcoholic, and
I'm a recovered alcoholic.
so I have been in the program a little bit less than 2 months, but I was using, instead of going to my therapist and being like, I have a problem, we're going to use drugs and we're going to make my brain better, we're going to use alcohol. Which seems like a really good idea, right? So I went to Dr. Danny about 2 weeks into realizing that I didn't want to go down like the pharmaceutical path. And I was like, I need you to help me. And this is not what I want to do. This is not who I want to be. I don't want to be using drugs in any form to help me. And he's like, I'll help you. And we've done 7 sessions, I think, at this point, and I don't use drugs at all. And it's like I don't use something that's prescribed. I use a ton of vitamins. I work my program, but he's been able to genuinely change my whole brain chemistry. Like, there's been a lot of excitement in our household the last week or 2 with a job change and some transitions, and normally my anxiety and my depression would be getting the best of me, and I'd be thinking, okay, I have this, my husband's nowhere to be found, who am I going to rely on, what am I going to do, oh wait, I'll just cope. And it is so not even realistic anymore. There's like a newfound perspective. Like there's no more anxiety. There's no more feeling of like this overwhelmingness. There's no more, what am I going to do? It's like, let's take this moment and be happy in this moment, and then let's tackle each stage that happens next.
You're able to get through it.
Yes. There is no feeling of codependence on a drug or alcohol or a chemical substance at all.
If I may, how is your approach to parenting different since we started?
It's probably like night and day.
It's so different that it's embarrassing, actually, because we are a yeller family. Like, we yell, we scream, and we think like those are going to yield results, and that's not where it is. And so like I've taken a step back and been like, okay, this is normal childhood behavior. Like, they're expressing their feelings, they're expressing their wants, they're expressing, they've had a shit day just like I did, and that's okay. And then my husband would come home and be like, well, I've had a shit day, so it's not okay that they've had a shit day. Like, so we're just gonna yell a lot.
Today's not your day.
Like, exactly. Like, today's not your day. You're going to do exactly what I've said, exactly when I've said to do it, and that's it. And since I've gotten healthy and like changed my brain chemistry and all that, it has been vastly different. So I'm like, we need to look at quality over quantity, because there's so little, they're still learning. I mean, we range from 12 to 4 is our age range, and there's 4 of them. So it's a lot, there's a lot of activities, there's a lot of school stuff, and there's a lot of disabilities. So there's a whole conglomerate of things that we have to take in on a daily basis, and it can be extremely overwhelming. Like, my oldest has severe ADHD, and I love him, but there are days that I just want to strangle him. Like, there are days that I just want to strangle him. And
just so you know, I had 3 kids and they were fairly healthy, and there were days when I wanted to strangle my kids too, so I can't
Like, it's a lot. Kids are a lot.
Yeah.
But when you add in some kind of deficit, it makes things extremely difficult. And you wonder whether or not you're parenting correctly and you're giving them the benefit and you're doing what's best for them. And it took a really hard look in the mirror and help with Dr. Danny to be like, this is okay. This behavior is okay. It's not affecting anyone. But when he goes to school, maybe we need to dial it back a little bit. Maybe we need to work on this. Maybe we need to work on that. Like, there's a lot of things that he kind of like threw out on the table, so to speak, and was like, we need to fix this. But these other things, they don't matter. That's totally normal kid behavior. And then you add like the husband element in, you know, because he's all explaining this to me while we're brain training, right? And we're brain training, multitasking, AK, chronic, whatever you want to call it. But
It's magic.
voodoo magic, witchcraft, whatever you want to call it.
Wizardry.
Wizardry with his help, with his hat.
Do you
know?
Does Dr. Danny see your oldest child?
He has
too?
not.
Okay.
That is our next step.
Okay.
So
mommy first and then.
yeah, so it was mom first and then him. But it's a lot, you know, and like for my husband to understand, like we're so since I've gone through brain training, let's call it that, it's very different. Like he doesn't see things the same way that I do because his brain hasn't been rewired. It hasn't been, like, let's be honest, his brain hasn't been rewired yet, you know, and it's okay. You know, he can still be anxious and be like, oh, I'm mad all the time and our kids are doing all this crap, but
Well,
they'll come around.
they'll eventually become believers because when I started coming to Dr. Danny, my husband was never a believer of any of that stuff.
If you can't fix it with a prescription.
Well, he doesn't even take aspirin or anything like that. But when he finally had a pain that was bad enough, and I said, you need to go see Dr. Danny. And he did, and the pain went away. He now tells everybody about it. I mean, it's like, you know, he's a real fan. But he would never.
We'll get him a t-shirt too.